Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, I'll let you know every time I use my garbage can. You're sure it's mine? Fine, I'll keep it. You're upset I'm the top performer? Then you get yourself a bare minimum employee. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. I'll let you know every time I use my garbage can. I've never met anyone that said, "Oh good," an HOA. We all have trash cans, but the sight of them offends the delicate eyes of some, so I complied with the new rule of no seeing bins from the street. I find a notice of my bins being out, which is surprising because I'm the only one who touches the cans and I know I'm 100% compliant. I call in and ask why I got the notice. The full description says bins in driveway with lids off. I asked if this happened to be a Tuesday, and sure enough it was. Wednesday is pickup, and I was doing my weekly cleaning. I was using them, I calmly explained through gritted teeth. "Oh, okay, I'll remove the notice." "Great, but how do I prevent this from happening again?" "Oh, I guess notify us." "Alright," I said, "I'll notify you every time I'm using my trash cans." "Oh, that won't be necessary." Clearly it is. That was 5 Tuesdays ago. Today, I once again called promptly at 10 o'clock and let Alan know I was about to use my trash cans. "You know what, Mr. Endoman? I'm just going to put a hold on any trash can notices for you." "Hey, that would be swell, Alan." "That would be swell." Wait, you called him at 10 every Tuesday for 6 weeks straight. Today, I once again called promptly at 10 o'clock and let Alan know I was about to use my trash cans. "You know what, Mr. Endoman? I'm just going to put a hold on any trash can notices for you." "Hey, that would be swell, Alan." Why call so late? I would have called on my way into the office at 5:30 a.m. Next Tuesday, you should call him again, not to inform him that you're once again using your bins, but just to confirm that he did indeed put a hold on the trash can notices. Just to be sure. That's really funny. But I can't help but feel that antagonizing someone who conceded defeat isn't very productive. I got a trash can ticket in the mail. The photo showed me actively pulling weeds and the trash can was rolled over by me where I was throwing weeds away. Gotta love HOAs. I don't live in an HOA, and I honestly don't think I've ever heard a single thing that makes them sound like a good idea. Why do people do this again? Moved to a new city and first time renting a house with an HOA. They said we had to order garbages and get that set up prior to moving in, so we did. The garbage company dropped the bins off in the back alley and we had a week or something before we got our stuff moved. Then later received a $75 fine from HOA for leaving bins out when we hadn't even moved in yet. Got it waived though, but F them. "You're sure it's mine? Fine, I'll keep it." This happened in 2014. I had just lost my job and was in the process of looking for a new one, but didn't have much money saved to pay bills in the meantime. So I asked my father if I could borrow $1,200 just to get me through to the next month and I would pay him back as soon as I started working again. He sent the money, I paid my bills, and got a new job shortly after. As soon as I had the money to pay him back, I used my bank's online bill pay option to send him a check. I sent him a text and told him it was on the way and just assumed that was the end of it. Well, a week went by and he hadn't gotten it. I thought maybe it took a few days for the bank to actually process the bill pay option because I hadn't used it before. So I asked him to just wait a few more days and see if it came. Several days later, it still hadn't gotten there, so I called the bank and asked them and they told me I could stop payment on it for free, so I did. Then I just wrote a personal check and mailed it. I just assumed something went wrong with the online bill pay. About 2 months later, I got a check in the mail from a medical facility in the state my father lives in for $1,200. I called and asked them about it, and they told me, on a recorded line, that it was an overpayment on an account my father had with them and it was a legitimate check and was mine to keep. At that point, I didn't associate it with the bill pay thing I had tried to do a couple months before. I did call my father to ask about his accounts with this place because there was no reason they should have my address to be sending me an overpayment if he had actually made one. He had no idea what was going on because he hadn't used that facility in a few years. I looked up the place on Google and finally it dawned on me what had happened. My father's address was on Saddlewood Drive at that point in time. But when I typed it into bill pay, my phone auto-corrected it to Sandalwood and it just happened to be the same numerical address. And because my father's name was listed as the payee, they erroneously attempted to apply it to his account. So that's where my check had gone. I tried to call them again and explain what happened, and the lady on the phone was extremely rude to me. She told me, "I've already talked to you about this. I don't know why you're calling again. We sent you what we owed you. This account is settled and we will not be talking about it again." Again, this is a recorded line. I asked if she was sure they owed me this money. She practically shouted yes. And I just smiled and hung up the phone. I deposited the check into my bank that day. They didn't try to call me back until about 6 weeks later. I had been wondering how long it would take. The person who called me was a different lady, and she called to tell me that a mistake had been made and that I owed them $1,200. I told her she was misinformed and she should go back and listen to the recorded calls that I had made to their office, and gave her the dates. I had been reassured multiple times that the money was mine and that I was in the clear to cash that check. And then I hung up. I haven't heard a single thing about it since then. 2 wrongs make 1,200 rights. Yeah, would love to see their faces when they listen to the recording. They might have to have a conversation with the lady that you had talked to. Can they go after the previous lady even if she's already no longer connected with them, e.g., resigned or retired? He. I'm amused at their silence over the last 9 years, but put off by their gall in calling you back in the first place, since you wouldn't have owed them either way. If they tried to apply the money to your father's account and it registered as overpaid, then clearly he was paid up to date when he stopped going to them. So with that new payment, they did owe someone, your father, technically I suppose, given it was his account. I find myself curious if this sort of customer service was part of why your dad did stop going there. I really thought I would have to deal with more from them, but I'm glad they just dropped it with me. I'm sure someone at that company got in a lot of trouble though. It always amused me that Americans mail checks like it's still the Paleocene. You guys don't have internet over there? You're upset I'm the top performer? Then you get yourself a bare minimum employee. For background, my jobs have always been geared towards data entry, as that's what I am best at. I've always typed over 120 plus and love finding new keyboard shortcuts to save me time and just be more efficient overall. Not a brag, trust me. Because of this skill, I have always excelled in prior roles that utilized it. That is, until my current career. I have been with this company for almost 3 months now. As with a lot of data entry jobs, this one has weekly productivity that you must meet. By week 2, I was meeting productivity once I grasped the role. This fueled me to try and get even faster. I learned the programs I was to be using and used simple keyboard shortcuts to toggle between programs, close them, used Excel formulas to concatenate and VLOOKUP repetitive information that others usually type out every time, etc. You get the idea. If there is a way to save time, I will find it. We get the team productivity email yesterday, and I see that I tripled what is expected of a single employee in an entire week. My numbers skyrocketed to levels that haven't been reached before. Now, here's the really fun part. Rather than getting any sort of praise, this company has felt anti-praise since I started, or being asked how I did it. I get an email from management stating my numbers are concerning and that they're essentially opening up an investigation to see if I cheated somehow. I even received a screenshot of others' numbers in one specific area with management stating it's impossible to have that much of a lead over those who have been here for years. My numbers were in the 800s while the second highest was 300 in the week. Today my boss calls me and says she's been spending the day checking my work, and so far everything has been accurate. Mind you, this investigation didn't start with her, she was just asked to check my work and was reporting what she found. But it's all accurate. She says I can continue with what I am doing since she found no problems. Now, I learned quickly that this isn't the type of place to be praised. There is zero incentive for anyone to go above and beyond if it's just going to be questioned. Now to clarify, I fully understand that if something seems off, a company is going to want to check and ensure I am understanding the work and entering it properly, especially with a new employee. But to email me stating it's concerning and impossible prior to even checking my work is where I have the issue. I shouldn't have even needed to be told it had to be looked into. They were told my numbers were accurate, and there has been radio silence since. No apology, no praise, no "how did you do it," in hopes I can show the rest of my team so we can get caught up one day. So with what little knowledge of Excel I had, I made a spreadsheet that tallies my accounts as I go so I can pace myself, and I am now alerted as soon as I meet that goal so that I can stop working without going over. I did add just a tiny bit more wiggle room to my spreadsheet as to not accidentally go under productivity to where they would have reason to use corrective action. But just ever so slightly above the bare minimum. If they're going to treat me like a bare minimum employee, they're going to get a bare minimum employee. I wonder how many other employees they drove to mediocrity. I had a temp job where I worked with the union shop steward, and he told me that if he saw a new employee working too hard, he told them to ease up and take it easy. It is good advice. Often they are screwing themselves, as next year's numbers are always what you did plus X%, normally between 10 and 15%. Just depends on where you work. I worked a 1-year contract and did very well. I applied for a FT position and they hired a younger guy for $3 per hour less. 2 weeks after my year ended, my previous boss messaged me saying that his team's productivity dropped by almost 30% since I left. The younger guy quit the company 6 months later. You should leave for a new job. Make sure that right before you leave you start trying again and do 2x the work as everyone else. Then call up whoever owns the business at your previous job and offer to train their existing employees for a huge consulting fee, since they are clearly all incompetent idiots if you do over 2x as much work as them in your first month at the company. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.